Hello and welcome to episode 101 of the Boot Nerds podcast. JayMike, what's up?
I'm pretty good, my man. Things are starting to open up in Denmark, which is very nice, meaning that this week I actually had my first training session with my football team for 5 months or so. So I'm in a pretty good spot. Body is tired. It's been a while since I've been running and I have been, playing football, doing Unisport videos. That's about it. So yeah, man, but playing football again, that's like a whole new world.
Isn't it crazy how you can think you're in really good shape still, and then you go and do an activity that involves a lot of what you've been doing, but there's just something about it that you just feel sore when you do it for the first time in a while.
And the body is just tired. It's just like you just feel the body, the joints and everything. They're just they're just not used to it anymore. It's kind of crazy, but it was great fun, and I think the fact that I have been playing football for the Unisport videos gave me an advantage over all the other guys it was brutal. They were dying. So it was okay. It was okay. How about you? Let me guess. Snowy?
There's still some snow. It's definitely melting. I think this might be the last week of really, really cold.
Okay.
But things are slowly starting to open up here as well. We're not quite at your level. We're allowed to go play team sports of any kind, but we're getting there. So you know what? Spring is coming.
Spring is coming. That is good. What's also coming is, and that's the topic of today's podcast, which we're going to talk about in a second, is what's the new Mercurial Dream Speed 4, of course. New boot for CR7 and Mbappe and Sam Kerr and all the other guys. But before we get into that, make sure that you leave a question, if you have any, in the comment section right down below, that you leave a like on this video if you enjoyed the podcast. And if you want to listen to the audio-only version of the podcast, you can go to bootnerds.com and find the links to Spotify or Apple Podcast everywhere you want to listen to your podcast. Josh, do we have a sponsor on today's video?
We didn't, but one just came in about 5 seconds ago, and it's Pure Grip socks, which are available at puregripsocks.com. That'll be linked down below in the description. $14.99 a pair, wide variety of colors available. Go get your socks. Thank you so much for all your support. puregripsocks.com.
Right.
All right. Cool. That's out of the way.
Shameless plug. But anyways, it's good to do it. It's good to do these. So, you haven't seen them in hand yet. And I have, obviously, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but I have worn these. I do apologize. It's the only one I had, and I had to wear it for a Unisport video. So yeah, they're kind of dirty, but you get the point about what they look like. This is the Mercurial Dream Speed 4. Obviously, this concept where Nike go in and instead of just making a signature boot for CR7, they make it a CR7 specification boot. At least it says so on the insole, but they also give it to Mbappe and Sam Kerr, and have previously also on the MDS3 given it to Bruno Fernandes and Erling Haaland and Ansu Fati and I guess a couple of other players. But that's kind of the trick with the MDS4, that they're only gonna do a Superfly 8 of this. Did you know that, Josh?
I didn't know that. That's very interesting.
Now you know. And now you guys know. Previously, ever since the MDS 1, 2s, and 3s, they always made the Superfly was kind of the main thing, right? It was worn by CR7, worn by Mbappe. Those were the two big players rocking it. But you could also get it as the Vapor. But now you can't anymore. They're making 3 styles of this. So the Elite and the Academy for adults and for kids. That's it. Which is an interesting move. But what's your first reaction when you see this beastie?
I really like them. I'll say that much. And the swoosh kind of reminds me of the Vapor 3, which I like.
Yes, which is good.
As far as the graphics and the colors are concerned, 2 things popped in my head immediately. It looks like a white boot that got sunburned. That's one. And then it also reminds me of a snow cone. When you pour the colored liquid on the snow and it kind of has that gradient fade, but there's still some white bits showing. That's kind of what it reminds me of too.
See, we don't do snow cones here in Denmark. That's like the ice cream popsicle kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's basically just ice like snow, and you pour like a sugary liquid in it to flavor it.
See, I've never had one of those. I think it's a very like American concept.
Oh, really?
I've never had one of those. The only reason I know what a snow cone is, I think deadmau5 once made a track called Snow Cone. I'm like, what on earth is that? But I guess I can kind of, see it for my inner eye that you might be right. But the whole sunburn thing, I never, that didn't cross my mind. But you're actually right. The funny thing is, I don't know if we can see it with the light here, but there actually is a bigger swoosh, just like on the normal Superfly 8, where it's kind of like hidden underneath, and it's like this almost like matte, translucent swoosh that's a little bit bigger. Pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's not a white boot that got sunburned. It is inspired by spacecraft re-entering the atmosphere, and that's a cool story, bro. But there's actually a reason behind the madness. So the thing is that when a spacecraft re-enters the atmosphere, it moves at like insanely high speeds. And I forgot the speed, and I will look it up in the script I made for the Unisport video because I also couldn't remember it there. But it's ridiculously fast. So the closer it gets to Earth, it's embarrassing. I can't remember this, but so it moves at 175,000 miles per hour, which is the equivalent of 281,635 kilometers per hour. So that's pretty fast. And because of that speed, it generates a lot of friction in the atmosphere, and it starts to burn. So it generates a heat of up to 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, or what did I say? 1,650 degrees Celsius. And that's kind of what the graphics are inspired by. So, spaceship is down here, scorching hot, burning, all that stuff moving through the atmosphere. And then the whole red tail of, it's burning. You know what I mean?
Wow. That's quite a story by Nike. I just think it's unbelievable that a spacecraft can go to space in the first place, but then come back at that speed with those heats and land and people survive. Yeah. I mean, 1,650 degrees. I think it's uncomfortable when I go to the sauna and it's like 90 degrees Celsius. So imagine sitting in like a tin pot, basically, and you're just like going through the atmosphere. Almost 300,000 kilometers an hour. And it's like 1,600 degrees outside. Jesus Christ. They probably have AC though. And I have to assume that the shuttles must be coated in ACC in order for this to be possible. I was just going to
say, yeah. It has ACC here, which is probably why it's taking those flames really well. That was a terrible joke. Moving on. Now, the whole space-inspired theme actually carries over. You can see here we have these checkerboard patterns. We have this almost tinfoil-looking Nike swoosh. The MDS writing is a little bit different than it was last year. Also, the Superfly writing, even the MDS writing on the insole. And I'm going to let you hazard a guess on what it might be inspired by.
Oh, it looks like the NASA font, if I'm not mistaken.
I agree. I have no idea if this is the truth, but I definitely agree.
Yeah, I really like the nods to spacecraft.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's cool. And I also this is our first time seeing a colorway for this latest generation of Mercurial that kind of it's not about the liner on the inside.
Sure.
Like you can still see some of the elements very subtly, of course, but they've really, for those that really hate the idea of this like translucent upper that they've done, it looks like we're going to get colorways that are not going to be all about what's happening underneath the actual upper. I
agree. And it's nice. I think it's the first time Nike have worked with a gradient running that direction. I think honestly, it looks pretty cool. Here's another question. So of course we have the speed wings in this very chrome. We also have the tinfoil covered small Nike swoosh. What would that be, you reckon? If you know a lot about spacecraft, I don't know.
I think that's like a heat shielding thing they use, is it not?
Oh man. Have you been reading my script?
No, I'm just up on spaceship stuff.
Wow. Okay. So the checkerboard patterns then, what would that be?
See, that to me, I I think it looks like some kind of motion capture type thing. And does it have to do with cameras and recording things? I don't know, to be honest with you.
This is kind of ridiculous because it actually does. It took me like 10 minutes to actually research something, and I just, started searching checkerboard pattern NASA, and I ended up with a couple of different solutions. But I think what they might, I have no idea if this is the truth. So Nike, you tell me. But I think it's got something to do with the rocket called Orion they sent up in 2017, where they had these like little checkerboard patterns all over because they used it for photogrammetry, which is like the technology of measuring distances using cameras. And it made it easier to measure the distance and thus the speed for the thruster engines, I guess, when they fell off and stuff.
You know what else it might have to do with? And again, I have no idea if this is accurate, but I know that there's certain planes, and a spaceship is traveling at much faster speeds than a lot of planes will, but a plane will actually expand and stretch as it's going through because of the heat and all the pressure. So I'm wondering if they use that to like gauge how fast they're going versus how much expansion there is. And like, I'm sure there's a safe amount of that. I don't know. It's a weird...
It kind of sucks to be sat inside, that 1650 degree Celsius warm tin can, and it starts expanding. You can just see the walls like... they probably tested it before. But you're right. That probably makes sense. Last thing, I thought that it might mean something, or it might just be a color. The color of the knit, Josh, what would that be?
For the white.
Judging by white grayish.
I'm going to guess like moon sand or something like that.
Honestly, that's not a bad guess. I was going to say like a spacesuit. But it
a spacesuit makes sense too. And I guess a space shuttle would be white as well.
Probably. Obviously, you know more about shuttles than I do. What I also think is pretty cool is that they actually followed this whole gradient on the sole plate as well. Which is
the sole plate looks really good, super clean.
And it actually really now makes sense with the whole Aerotrack spine running down. I think it's a good looking pair of boots. Probably not the first thing I would say. This is the coolest Dream Speed boot they've done. That's probably still number 3, right? But it's I like it.
I'm a big fan.
It's special and it's different, and it's pretty flipping cool.
It's cool. It stands out, but I think it's not too flashy. And I like all of the little subtle nods. I think it's one thing to have storytelling in a football boot that's blatantly obvious, but I like the subtlety of what they've done here.
Yeah. And I like you say that it's not too flashy, yet the story behind it is that the boot is literally on fire. The hottest fire you can imagine. But yeah, now I get what you're saying. And also it's it's a different way of telling this whole Dream Speed thing. So yeah, it's kind of, I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot going with the speed of light for the second Dream Speed because it can't do faster than that. So yeah, it is what it is, but a cool pair of boots nonetheless.
Yeah, for sure.
What's also cool, we didn't talk about them before, but I just wanted to bring them up because they dropped on Friday. The Mizuno Morelia Ultralights in this absolutely insanely cool gold color right here. It's a remake of the 2000 and would it be the 2010 version? I think they dropped the yellow green in 2010 if I'm not mistaken. But this actually weighs 25 grams less. So it weighs 175 grams. It's a leather boot. It feels like a Morelia. And it has to be one of the most comfortable boots I've ever worn. I think this is comfier than the Morelia Zeros. So it's absolutely, it's stupidly cool. And it's obviously gold, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of the colorway. Is it very flashy and not for everybody? Probably. But I think it's hilarious that and we always talk very positively about Mizuno, and unfortunately, we're going to be doing it again here. But I think I think it's hilarious that Mizuno can go out and make a football boot like that is to a quality standard that exceeds just about everything on the market from any other brand. And it's also like lighter than everything.
Yeah, like, that's the thing.
It's like I don't think very many people would look at that boot and anticipate it to be lighter than the Morelia Neo, as an example.
And it is lighter than the Morelia Neo, which is absolutely ridiculous that it's possible. And this is a boot that came out for the first time in 2002, I think it was, wasn't it?
A long time ago.
Let me just check. Or was it 2000? Was it all the way back in 2000? It was all the way back in 2000, actually. See,
jeez.
It's just like they've really made some high quality boots back in the day. Think this back in 2000, and they have the Wave Cups in 2002. Man, it's some proper high level stuff. I never owned a pair of the Ultralights in my size before these, so I'd never tried them. And I have been missing out. Why are they lighter then? I guess it's because of the new tooling that they've used from the Morelia 2, the updated one from 2020. That would probably be the main reason. And then obviously the upper super light, ultra light.
Yeah, which I've been getting quite a few questions about that because I've recently made a video on the Zeros and I made a video recently on the MIJ Morelia 2. And I think a lot of people look at those boots and then they compare it to the Morelias that have been made basically since 2010 that you could buy for a long time now, and they look almost identical. But as far as the sole plate is concerned, the tooling itself is pretty well the same. I don't think they've actually changed anything about the stud pattern and the look of it, but the materials used, the types of plastic used are significantly lighter than they were before starting last year. So that makes a huge difference in terms of like where a lot of the weight is coming from in the football boot. And again, we've been brainwashed by all these big companies to believe that leather boots are old school and they're heavy and they're clunky and they're bulky. But Mizuno goes out once again and really proves that, hey, we can make not just leather at the toe, but the entire upper out of kangaroo leather and still have it lighter than the latest Mercurials.
And also, like, again, one of the comfiest boots I've ever worn in my life. There's zero breaking time. I didn't even have to like wear them for half an hour. Like you get with a pair of Morelias, you need to just break them in for just like 20-30 minutes for them to get that really like super slipper like monster pliable sensation right out of the box. This was just, it felt like someone had worn it in a good way for like half a year. It's that soft. So really impressive. And yeah, it's gold and it might be, but it's not the like the flashy blingy gold. It's just like the classy, I've got the swagger, this is awesome gold.
Yeah, that's just a cool football boot. You run into someone wearing those,
but you kind of have to be like, you have to be good to wear these. I don't think I'm good enough to wear these. Mizuno, can you please release like a black and white and red standard colorway ultralight as well, so I can also wear them without being hacked down all the time.
You know what else I would like from Mizuno if they happen to be listening to this podcast? Look, their inline stuff is great. I'm super happy with what they're currently making, but they come out with stuff like this and the Wave Cup Legends, and they do these remakes and they're so good, but they're gone in a second. And then you're left with nothing. Like it'd be nice for that to just be an option, Imagine being so like, I'm not going to say entitled, but you know what I mean? Having so many great options and still, we're complaining that, these sell out and you're left with nothing except for, the regular cups and the Morelia Neo Beta Japans and the Wave Cup Legends and it's, but that just, it goes to paint a picture of how good these and the Wave Cup remakes have been. That's what I'm saying.
And they're all boots, right? That's the crazy thing. These are 21 years old. Obviously, the first edition of these, 21 years.
That's crazy. It's unbelievable how far ahead they were.
Yeah. Wow. it's pretty mad. I can't wait for you to actually get them, so we can get your take on them as well, and for you to see if you also like them better than the Zeros.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm actually very curious to give those a go.
We're gonna have a question. Actually, we might as well jump into the question section right now, unless you have any more comments on the Dream Speeds and the Ultralights.
No, I mean, I think it's a little bit funny that they're having a football boot inspired by a spaceship being worn by the alien that is Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, that's kind of funny, but
hey.
Nike, if you use that one, I want 10% because that's a great marketing scheme in my opinion. But
they're probably not. Out of all the ideas we've given them, that is probably. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but they're probably. it's kind of a bad idea. Sorry. And then you have like, this is inspired by spacecraft and like aliens in the future and all that stuff, and yet this comes round and it's from 2000 and just knocks it out the park.
Yeah, for sure.
Mizuno though, we're like people. I understand why people say we're brainwashed because we praise them a lot. But I would argue that if you get those Ultralights in your hand, you're not putting anything else in your feet for a good while.
That's the thing.
I was sat at work today just writing a script for next week, and I was like, should I take off my Ultra Boost 21s and just go like pop these on just because they're so flipping comfy in the office? No lie. Yeah.
Hey, you have the Ultra Boost 21.
Oh yeah, I do.
What are your thoughts? Just to have a little running shoe segment on the Boot Nerds podcast.
These are mad. Honestly, I have had every Ultra Boost since the first one came out, and this is by far my favorite. I thought the newer ones, I think the 19 and 20 versions, they weren't as good as the first one. It didn't feel as free and like accommodating, if you will. So I think this one takes that free and accommodating sensation of the first one, second one, third generation, and gives you more boost, so it's a little bit more comfortable. And it also feels like it does have a little bit more spring to it. It's a little bit more bouncy and responsive when you push off. I haven't gone running in them yet, but it feels like they've actually made it turn it into a running shoe again, which is really nice. And it just that white electricity black colorway looks insane.
I agree with you. I think it feels more like a running shoe than it has in the last couple of years.
Oh, you have it as well?
I do have it as well.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's the best upper we've seen on an Ultra Boost in terms of fit and just general feel.
It's so soft.
Yeah, it's really good how they did it. I was surprised by the 30% more boost thing that it didn't really... I think it looks more significant than it feels.
Sure.
But they've made it seems to ride a lot firmer than Ultra Boost 19 and 20 did. So I think for actual running, this is probably a big step up. But for casual wear and just general comfort to just wear them around, I found the 19 and the 20 to be a little bit more comfortable.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I like the softer feel to the Boost.
Right. I definitely like that. It's a little bit more. Yeah, it's a little bit more firm. That's a good way of putting it. And the upper to me is just so next level that I'm not even gonna bother going back to the 19s or 20s.
Yeah, it's good though. Overall, I think it's a nice improvement if the idea was to make it more of a running shoe, which it's realistically always supposed to have been.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think you have like the more, back then, of course, you had your NMDs and all that stuff, which took it took all the technology from the Ultra Boost and then made it a more lifestyle shoe. Now you have your night crawlers and or night joggers, night joggers. Oswegos don't have boost. What else do you have boost on? Well, basically everything out there.
Yeah, everything has boost now.
Yeah. Have you tried? We're totally going off topic here. Have you tried the 4D runners yet?
I do have a pair of. They're not the latest ones. It's actually one of the first 4D ones I have.
The Alpha Edges.
They came out like maybe 2 years ago. I forget exactly which one they're called.
I have a pair of Alpha Edges over here.
But they're really cool concept to like 3D print the outsole. I don't know why they call it 4D when it's 3D printed, but that's the decision that they chose to go with. I think it just looks more extreme than it feels. is the best way to put it. Yeah, I want to say the same ones. Yeah, I think they're the same ones.
Yeah, they're pretty nice. I really personally, this is one of my favorite shoes at the moment. 4D Run ones. The shape of the shoe, the way the 4D moves, the general comfort is just a very airy mesh. Like, if you want to go and buy something like that you can use both for like light running and just, you know, a stable ride, whatever you do, go get these. They're flipping amazing.
Yeah, I what I was really kind of impressed with is how solid it feels. Mm-hmm. But I feel like it's a little bit misleading in terms of how 3D printed it is as you get to the main body of the outsole. Because it looks crazy along the outside, but I mean, you can't really see through it. Like it doesn't seem to have that same thing all the way through. It looks pretty dense and solid through the middle. So it ends up feeling more normal than it looks. But it is it's super durable. Like I've lifted weights in them just to see if it would like compress or collapse or break or something like that. And it's really solid, stays nice and stable. Like it works. Is it the best way of making a running shoe? Probably not, but it certainly looks cool. And I think that's a big part.
And they fit extremely well, is my experience at least. I really enjoy wearing them. So yeah, that was a complete detour, going exceptionally off topic, but that's the beauty of the Boot Nerds podcast. We also love sneakers. So yeah, shoot us. Anyways, for the questions, we have one here to stay in the whole comfort world. Havath Bense, if that's the Havath Bense. Anyway, butchering names since 1988. Is the Puma Future set the most comfortable boot in the market right now? Because Josh said that in one of his previous videos, but now with this new Copa, is it still the best when we're talking only about comfort? So,
I don't remember saying that it's the most comfortable boot on the market.
You said it was the most comfortable.
I don't remember saying that specifically, but I think it is a very comfortable football boot.
Wasn't it more like it's one of the most comfortable? So in the top.
Yeah, it's up there, and that's I'm assuming what I would have said. Is it more comfortable than the Copa?
It wouldn't be you to say something as definitively. Is that a word?
It's a very strong statement to make. Yeah. I don't know. Comfort is so subjective. It's difficult to say something is the most comfortable. But if we're talking about Future Z versus Copa, whether it's the Sense Plus or the Sense Point 1, I think the Future is just a more comfortable football boot. There's I agree with really no way around it.
No, it fits better. I agree. I've warmed up to the Future Zs, to be honest. I'm not as mad at them as I was initially. They're a solid pair of boots, but I still think they're a little bit. I mean, it's not like I wear them and I every time I wear them, I'm like, oh, they're actually great boots. I shouldn't be mad at them. But then I come back and I have to go to football practice, and I'm like, what should I wear today? And I never even consider the Future sets. If I want to wear Pumas, I wear Ultras. So that's why it's still missing that X factor for me.
Yeah, look, I think the fit and the comfort is the strongest aspect of the Future Z. So if you really have like this desire to have something a little bit more from a tech perspective, then yeah, there's maybe more interesting football boots out there, not necessarily better.
Yeah.
But again, everyone values something a little bit different. If comfort is a priority, Future Z is a solid option.
It's a solid option. For me, actually, you can do even better for the Puma brand. I would go Puma Ultra, which for me is one of the most comfortable boots in a couple of years. It is such a soft upper. It has just the right amount of padding, so it feels like it actually, the padding itself, the liner actually is taking a little bit to the shape of your foot. It's probably too wide, but width equals comfort for me at least, or feels really, cozy. That's the word I'm looking for. So I would probably point to that, or any of the Mizuno Morelias. I would probably set Morelia 2s or 0s. I could have lived with that, but these for me would take the cake.
Yeah,
It doesn't.
that's fair.
Doesn't get better than that. So, Future Set definitely up there. Copa Sense probably not as comfortable for me as like in the classic sense of comfort as the 20 Plus was.
Yeah.
But I still it's a great fit, but it's a little bit more. I feel a bit more ready in the senses than the old boots, but they've just been streamlined a little bit more. You feel a little that they. Would you agree when I say that they feel comfortable in a slightly more performance-oriented way than the 20s?
Oh yeah, 100%. They feel more secure as well. It's just for me, the heel liner is the comfort downfall with that boot.
Yeah.
Because while it does do its part in terms of locking your heel, sometimes so much lockdown can decrease overall comfort.
Yeah. It's a little bit funny. They call it the sense parts, and the only sensation you get is like the over excessive lockdown in the heel.
It's too much.
Rupture. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Lola Chewy, supposedly Chelsea microwaves the boots. I read that story as well. That can't be right. And I was, are you stupid? They even said there's a timer, but doesn't all microwaves have a timer? I guess so. I'm assuming it's not a microwave. I'm afraid kids might blow up their microwaves if there's any metal in your boots to totally damage your boots. And I would say this, I get the deal about, heating up your boots. It could be microwave or the oven or the hot water trick. I definitely stay away from the microwave. Don't put anything else but food in the microwave. Not your cat or your football boots or, tin foil. Don't put it in the microwave.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. I don't know who advised this.
Chelsea?
Oh, really?
I think there's a story from one of their players. Maybe it was Mason Mount or Callum Hudson-Odoi. I'm not sure. I just saw it on Twitter somewhere and thought, well, that's stupid. But
yeah, if you have an abundance of boots that you're just willing to potentially melt and destroy and or blow up a microwave or two, go for it. But I don't think that's a necessary step in the process of breaking in your boots.
John Terry went through 3 pairs of Nike boots per match. One for warm-up, one for first half, and one for second half. Because he microwaved the Jesus out of them. Anyways, don't microwave your boots. Alanino, in my opinion, the Puma Future set looks clean. It's new and I like it, but I despise how Puma always uses bright neon colors. That and the Future print on the side. I think that a football boot looks clean when it's just simple. And by that, I mean just having the Puma Cat logo with minimal designs and no more neon colors. But other than that, the boot is new and looks amazing. Although Puma can do more, like Jay said, thank you, they can do more other than the compression band thing that they added. They can maybe make it a bit more sleek, thin boot like the Nike Mercs, but not exactly like it. Also, the color on the Puma boots look like the material that isn't good. Maybe raise it up a bit. That's just my opinion. So a very long comment, but few things Alanino is unhappy with. What do you think about Puma using very busy, bright neon graphic designs on the Future set?
Yeah, look, I think unfortunately, unless you are Nike, where people seem to almost unanimously love the Nike swoosh, no matter where it's positioned, what size it is, like it's always going to be kind of a home run. People just love the Nike swoosh. And I guess Adi has that to an extent with the 3 stripes as well. Sure. Although sometimes people are unhappy with the deviations of where the stripes are positioned. In the form of the form stripe, and I think this has changed a lot over maybe the last 30 years or so, but I think that just the form stripe down the side at this point in time doesn't appeal certainly to the younger generation. And I think that's always their move with a design like the Puma Future, where they're trying to make something that looks, I don't want to say busy, but more technical, more interesting. And again, I think it's pretty obvious with the giant Future letters down the side that they're trying to appeal to a younger audience.
Sure. I'll be honest. So, I like the Future writing. I think it looks nice.
I don't hate it either. That's the thing. And I think you always have to consider that with football boots is like every colorway that a brand puts out is not necessarily intended for everyone to love. Like there's a reason why they put out multiple is because they know everyone's going to like something a little different.
I get it. But I also get why, the teaser boot was white and bright yellow, and now the inline boot, it follows the same color idea. It might be good to, I think the blackout boots are much better. They look really, really cool. But yeah, I also think the sock color on the Future set is a little too high for like the how the silhouette looks, but on feet, it doesn't matter. Yeah, but they could do more. I agree.
Yeah, I think that's a boot that looks much better on feet, actually.
Yeah, totally. Also because you don't get that compression from the Fusion Fit band that kind of drags down the middle of the boot in a weird way. Anyways, we have a question from Justin Chen. Hey, Jay and Josh. The very toe on my TechCraft Vapors is starting to wear and become fuzzy. Is this the end of the boot's life, Josh?
As long as they're not flopping around to a point where they're like detrimental to your ability to play, no, just keep wearing them. Like visible wear on a football boot is pretty normal. I think that when it's time to replace a football boot, it'll be broken. Like you'll know. I think
you'll know when it's gone. And obviously, it becoming a little fuzzy might just be, the top, the outer skin-like part of the leather wearing down. But that doesn't mean it's falling apart. So yeah, I don't think it's dead yet. Just treat it well, give it some leather food, and you'll be all right for the time being. Justin Wu, what are you guys' favorite Tiempo of all time?
I mean,
I know what you're going to say.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I think Tiempo Legend 5 would be my pick. But I would also be really tempted to pick just the Tiempo Legend 1. I love that boot.
Okay. Why?
I just, visually, it's such a classic boot. I think the quality of it is great. I like the technicality with the sole plate. I think the stud pattern is one of the better Tiempo stud patterns we got. I loved the rubberized insole. I always thought that was a really cool thing. The implementation of Zoom under the heel is kind of underwhelming when you actually get to try them. But I think that's a football boot that has actually aged really well. And like if you look back at like a lot of the Nike boots we've had over the years, that's one that I think is still very wearable by today's standards.
The ones?
Yep.
Okay. I still, I wouldn't mind rocking a pair, but I think the Tiempos come quite far since the ones. The 5s are definitely not bad. I like the 6 a little bit more, but I'm probably going to say Tiempo Legend 4 Elites. Because they look fantastic, they feel fantastic, and they're just super, super cool. If I can't choose those, I'm going to choose the Tiempo XXs with the Allegria leather.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
The Legend 4 Elite is one of the coolest Tiempos ever made. Probably the coolest one, I would say.
Yeah.
But if for some reason the shape of that boot never agreed with my foot. It was always too low volume at the toe.
Okay.
And like for some reason my heel there would always be that slight amount of slippage.
It's a little bit of slippage in the Elite. I agree. It sucks.
Yeah, I always had an issue with it.
Yeah. Then thankfully some genius decided to go out and make grip socks that you should buy and if you
I know, only if. Too late.
Also, do you remember I'm just looking at them now on my shelf, Tiempo Legend 5 Totties. The Gladiators.
Yeah, those were
black and
those were sweet
too.
Yeah, very cool boots.
Dalton North, JayMike and Josh, which is better, the new Merc AG sole plate or the one that was found on the Tiempo Venom and Vision 2? So the previous generation of AG, the one that you still have on the
Tiempo. Yeah. If we're talking about using it exclusively on artificial grass, I like the new one they've put on the Merc, which is actually the old one from like 7 years ago.
Basically, it's not exactly the same. I went and took a look at. That was my first reaction when I saw it. I was like, "That's the Vapor 9 AG, like 1-to-1 AG outsole right there." I looked at them. It's not the same, but it's very close. Very very close.
They basically took away 2 studs.
You might be right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they took one away at the toe, and then instead of 1 support stud in the forefoot, instead of 2, there's now 1.
Okay, fair enough.
Other than that, the layout is identical, at least based on what I can tell.
With that said, on AG, it's it's just so comfortable. I wore it. I've worn it quite a lot actually. My AG boots are so, there's black bits everywhere, all these black scuff marks everywhere. It's so comfortable. I would definitely also choose that simply because of comfort, and it just feels safer. Yes, it's a little bit less aggressive and responsive than the old Merc outsole, and also that on the Venoms and the Visions and the Legends. But yeah, I'd still take the new Merc AG tooling.
Yeah, I think it's just that is simply the best AG stud pattern probably ever that I've tried, at least.
The Hyper Venom 1 AG outsole was also pretty good, but just a little less aggressive. It had like 18 million studs.
Yeah.
It was just very comfortable.
For me, I think artificial grass, it's such an abrasive surface. Most stud patterns are going to grip pretty well.
Yeah.
It's just that balance of too much grip.
Sure.
And I think this new AG stud pattern does that really well. And it's not to say that the old AG Pro one didn't do a good job on an artificial grass surface.
It was amazing, yeah.
I just think that the studs were longer than they needed to be. But I understand why a lot of people liked the duality of like the FG AG capability that stud pattern
definitely
had.
From that point of view, I would take the older one on the Legends and the Phantoms, the Venoms and the Visions. Definitely. But as a pure AG tooling, definitely the new Mercurial.
Yeah, and look, I think you can complain about not having that FG AG capability, but I think in the name of the Mercurial, especially of all football boots, that's always about like peak performance. Like I think it just makes sense to have a stud pattern that is truly specialized for one surface. Because as soon as you try to spread out something that's going to work on multiple surfaces, you decrease the performance on both. So I just think it's the best way of doing things is to have a purpose-built football boot for one surface.
And they can probably sell more. Which I think is also part of the equation. But I agree with everything you said right there. We have a final question here from Vanders. Or Fundus. I guess, because he lives in Germany and can say that many large automotive companies, car companies, are making concerted efforts to move away from animal skin products. That is less and less interior leather offerings, and Tesla doesn't even use any. I can imagine Adidas doing the same. Do you see a near future where the big three no longer have any leather offerings at all? There seems to be additional market forces at play too. For example, from my understanding, K-leather boots are no longer sold in California, and they haven't been for a while, by the way. Do you think there's a future without any leather boots?
Not for a while.
No, I agree.
I don't think it's going away anytime soon. What California does with a lot of things, I think, is kind of a little bit of an anomaly in terms of what the rest of the country and the rest of the world decides to do. I understand the comparison to a car interior and something like that. And I think if you look at the automotive industry, especially, it's always about cutting costs.
Sure,
so while they might promote, we don't use natural leather on our interiors anymore as like a positive thing.
Yeah.
It's a much less expensive way for them to do things and maybe even charge a premium for it in some instances.
Because
marketing,
caring about the environment, right?
Yeah, like marketing is a big thing, I think, in that area. And look, I understand. Look, I love animals as much as the next person. I don't want this to turn into like a morality discussion on whether or not it's right or wrong.
No,
but I don't see it as something that's going to be going away in football boots anytime soon. And look, the amount of leather used on a football boot versus the amount of leather used for the interior of a car, I mean, it's very different things.
That's night and day. I agree.
I think it's always a huge thing, and not just with leather, but there's a lot of things that people think need change, and some do, some don't, depending on what your opinion is. But like, there's a gigantic industry around leather.
Yes.
And for that to just like one day just disappear completely, I think that's going to take a lot of time.
It would be nice though if like we could get to a place where we don't kill animals for their leather, but instead, animals that are being slaughtered for, food and all that stuff. And it might be the case. I don't know too much about that side of things, honestly. So there might be some people coming after me in the comments, but animals will die to feed the planet for, I think, the considerable future. So it would be nice if we could just use the leather from them and not go out and kill anymore.
Sure.
It'll probably be the next step to get to. But honestly, that might be a bit of a pipe dream. Let's see where it goes. And maybe California will be something we'll see in more and more places over the next coming, let's say, 5-10 years.
Yeah. And just to clarify on the California thing, because I get a lot of comments about this, it's not banned in the sense that you can't own them.
No.
It's just that stores are not allowed to sell kangaroo leather products. Right. So you could, I guess, theoretically order it in from another country or even another state. I'm not sure exactly how that works.
We're not allowed to sell them to California either, no.
Oh, no, you're
Denmark.
not. Eh?
Yeah, we can't ship leather. But these, for instance, we have actually a text on the website saying we can't ship them to California. It's illegal for us to sell them in the state of California.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
but what do I know? I'm just a boot nerd. But anyways, that concludes episode 101 of the Boot Nerds podcast. Do remember, please, that if you have any questions you'd like us to answer, leave them in the comment section right down below. Stay tuned for an update. Might not be next episode, but for an update coming at some point about our Nike by You Mercurials when they come in. And don't forget to go subscribe to the best podcast on the interwebs by clicking the white bubble over our heads. And then you can go and follow Josh and my channels, Unisport and SR4U, by clicking the bubble over our heads separately. And with those words, I've been JayMike and I approve this message. That was a mess of an outro. But anyway, thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.